Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi everyone, welcome to another recommendations video, and today I'm doing something that I think is kind of fun. I've seen posts kind of like this on Instagram before. I don't know if I've seen one exactly like this. I bet it exists though, so I'm not claiming complete ownership of it. I know I've seen things like it before, and that's what inspired this. And they're those type of posts where it says kind of like choose your own adventure or choose your symbol or choose your color. And then once you choose that, you scroll through the post, and for that item or color or thing that's recommended, they have book recs that go with it, right? So there's ones that like choose your favorite color or choose your trope, and then there's recommendations for it. And I thought it would be a really cool idea to do this with romance books and candle scents, which I know, kind of a weird leap, but you know, there's that thing of like, a lot of us probably like to light a candle when we're reading. I know there are multiple companies now that do, you know, trope inspired candle scents. I actually used to be a rep for Brightside candles. I loved them, actually, I truly did. It's just that being a rep, I just want you to know, doesn't always mean you straight up get free stuff all the time. A lot of times it is that you get a discount or you'll get a credit to use for them. And to truly like support a rep, because I didn't make commission on that, the gift of being a rep means that you in general get a discount on the things, you get early access to certain items, but it was still pretty expensive to like be a rep for a company. And this, I'm truly, I'm not trashing them. I loved being a rep for Brightside candles. I still have them all over. I burn them all the time. They're a great product. And the owner is just one of the sweetest women ever, and I love a lot of the collabs that she's done. But I just couldn't continue like being a rep and doing my like bestest job with her product and everything. Because again, there is some buy-in to being a rep for a lot of companies, you know. But I just love that idea. And again, I've bought so many candles from her, both before I was a rep, during, and after. And I just love that idea of it, you know. And so because I've seen this kind of idea on Instagram, I thought it would be fun to do one for fall scents, which are some of my favorite scents to get. Now, some of these we're going to do, I have 7 different scents. Some of them are actually based on candles I've like bought before from either Bath and Body Works, or some of them are just the idea of what I like wish there was a scent for. But every single one of these candle scents, I was able to look up and get the notes of a candle, you know, the scent notes of a candle that also had this name. So I know these candles at least exist, whether or not I've bought them or not. And the way I'm going to do this is that I have 3 recs for each one, because again, I have 7 different candle scents to go through. My plan is to have, so you can do this like you would do the Instagram post, where you can pick the scent and go directly to those recommendations. So if I've done things right, there should be a like timestamp down below for each section of the video. So if you want the Friday Night Lights scent, you can go right to that and get the recommendations for it. So that's how I'm making it similar to the Instagram post. But the way we're going to do this is I'm going to go through all 7 scents, tell you what the scent notes are, and then recommend 3 books to you. And I'm going to try not to make this take all day, because that is 21 books I would end up talking about. And again, the scent itself for the candle, again, this is based off a real candle I was able to look up and find. But that doesn't, but then like I chose what it inspired. So you'll see what I did. For each candle scent, I picked basically a trope or a feeling that that candle gave me. You know, this isn't based off science or anything. It's just based off of Jen's brain. So I have all these books to go, and I'll give kind of just some brief overview of each one. And hopefully you can find some books you want to give a try to. And I will have links to those down below as well. So we can go from there. So anywho, let's get into this. I do have a little, I did actually write a bit of a script for this one, so I didn't get all confused all over the place. So let's go right on through this here. So first up, I will tell you what all the scents are. So I had 7 scents that I put together. I'll show the graphic right here. There is candy corn, fall harvest, crisp apple cider, Friday Night Lights, Snickerdoodle, Earthy Woods, and pumpkin spice. So those are the 7 fall scents that I put together for my little collection, okay? So let us go through. So the first one I come across is Earthy Woods. This is the scents of cedar, vanilla, oak moss, sandalwood, spice, and black pepper. And I put this for dark and suspenseful romance is where I went with Earthy Woods. Because y'all know I needed to have a dark romance option in here. But not all 3 of these are fully dark romance, and they're all different days. So the 3 recommendations I have for Earthy Woods are Brutal Ambition by Sam Mariano. This one I thought was great because it even has this like Halloween party that is happening in this one. And so I thought that was a good fit kind of for the vibes. And our heroine actually goes there, doesn't know that she is set to be a literal virgin sacrifice at this event. And our hero, as it were, isn't fully a hero by any means, but he also doesn't want her to die because it would be really inconvenient for him and his secret society if this competing secret society was able to kill her and make her a sacrifice, because he's like, they would fuck it up. They're not going to do a good job. So yeah, it isn't out of any true altruism or hope for our heroine that she gets saved. But Killian is going to step in and do it. And so once he's rescued her, though, he feels like she kind of owes him. And so he's going to maybe kind of sort of keep her for himself and not really give her a choice to get away. So this is Brutal Ambition, and I actually need to reread that book soon for an annotated book, and I'm really looking forward to it because that book is quite the treat. Next, I have one that is more on the suspense side and doesn't have as many dark elements, and that is From Here to Eternity by A.L. Jackson. This one is actually book 1 in Moonlit Ridge, of which book 4 actually just came out. And this one here is about, I think this one is River. Yeah. River and our heroine Charlie. And this is about the Sovereign Sanctum who actually help rescue women out of dangerous situations. And so this book absolutely involves some suspense and things like that, because the people that they're dealing with are very dangerous. And we have Charlie, who her life has been not great over the past few years. She struggled with whether she wanted to go on or not, but she's found it in herself to dig deep and keep fighting. And when she comes across Moonlit Ridge, this small town, she is very wary of everyone in this small town, but very quickly falls in with a great group of people who it turns out she may have more connections with than she expects. So yeah, also River is a tattoo owner or tattoo shop owner and a single dad. So some great things there. Then I have one that is a bit more of a mix of a bit of like absurdness mixed in. There's some humor mixed in, but it's also still very sexy and dark at the same time. And that is Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geisinger. Yes, the beginning of the Queens and Monster series. And in this one, we actually have our heroine who, her fiance died 5 years ago, or disappeared 5 years ago, leaving her without him. And she really, it's taken her a long time to accept that he's fully gone. And then our hero shows up, and he's actually there for some pretty nefarious reasons, let's just say. He's sent to find out more about this gone fiance, and possibly to use Nat to find out that information. But once he gets a look at her, he really kind of wants her for himself. And so that might conflict with the mission that he's on. But you know what? He doesn't give a fuck. If he wants her, he's gonna have her. Okay? So there's our little dark and suspenseful books that I have to recommend there that kind of cover the gambit of things. But that was my choice for Earthy Woods, is dark and suspense. I'm also not going to make this a tag or anything, but if anybody watching wants to interpret these in their own way or add their own sense into it, I think that could be a super fun thing to do. Okay, next up, let's go to Snickerdoodle. And for Snickerdoodle, we have sugar, cinnamon, honey, and butter rounded out with creamy vanilla. By the way, a lot of these are going to have vanilla in it, which doesn't surprise me. Vanilla is a lot of base notes for a lot of scents, but you're going to see it in a lot of these. And for Snickerdoodle, one of the things I love about fall scents is all the baked goods. I didn't put a cobbler in the list because that can fit in also some other areas, but I love baked goods. So there is literally like 3 different food options for these candles, and that's my personal preference. But Snickerdoodle really spoke to me as a comforting scent. And so I picked 3 different comfort reads for this one. That's where I went with this. So the other ones, again, we'll get back to more like tropey specific, but with this one, I just picked 3 books that are vastly different, but they're all stories that are comforting to me in different ways. So the first one I picked is my ultimate comfort read. I actually read this book pretty much every winter, though the last couple years I've been a little bit behind on it just because I've had other things going on. But I did read this one last year because one of my patrons actually had me annotated for her, which is great. But one of my comfort reads is East by Edith Patel. So this has been one of my favorite books since I was 12 years old. It is a retelling of East of the Sun, West of the Moon, and it's about this girl named Rose who has always longed for adventure. And when this big white bear shows up at her family farm and offers healing to her older sister who's been very ill in exchange for Rose coming to stay with him in his mountain castle, she jumps at the chance to save her sister and to go on the adventure she's always dreamed of. Only her curiosity about this mountain castle may get her in a bit more trouble than she knows what to do with. Let's just say that. So yeah, this is actually a like middle grade novel, but it is one of the most comforting stories to me. Every single time I dip into it, I get sucked into the whole thing and I can't put it down. I just have so many good memories of this story. So that had to be on my comfort reads. But now to get back to some romance. Another one that I love to revisit so much, and I love this edition that I have. I actually got this edition first way back when I went to Book Bonanza ages ago. Oh, it's so pretty. I just love it so much. Is actually the King's Spinster Bride here, okay? So this one is an older woman romance, and she's actually been locked in a tower for many years, and for 16 years actually. And 16 years ago, she actually saved the life of a little barbarian boy. And all these years later, he is actually now the king of the barbarians, as it were, and he comes and rescues her to make her his. Now, there are some rituals they have to go through to complete the marriage ceremony that are quite interesting, I'll say that. But I absolutely loved this story, and I have read it multiple times at this point. This is the Book Bonanza 2023 exclusive edition. Which is crazy. I can't believe that's only been 2 years since that so much has happened in my life. But I believe you can buy this edition now. It was only exclusive for a little while. But this is a short novella-length book. It's very comforting. It's very sweet. It still for sure has its spicy moments because it's Ruby Dixon. But it's just such a comforting story. I love it so much. And yeah, I love sharing this one with people who want something a little bit different. And then this one is really about a like comfort series for me, and that is actually Love and Hockey by Lauren Blakely. I listened to this audiobook kind of on a whim. I hadn't really read Lauren Blakely in a while. I'd read a few random books from her, but then I read this series, and in general, this series is pretty low stress. It's very sweet. There isn't a lot of third act conflict in the books, and though they are chunky, they are full of found family and sweet moments. And this one is about our heroine who her brother's hockey teammate, and she ends up living with him. But it's after they've actually had a one-night stand that just like rocked both of their worlds. And then they find out who the other is, and then she ends up moving in with him before even knowing really who they were or how they know each other. And now there can't be anything between them. But they become such good friends. And then when things finally lead back to the steamy and exciting, they know each other so well, and they're willing to make changes so that they can be together. And I just love that. And this series has, again, a lot of the stories within it where there are such great friendships between all the players, and then also the heroines and the heroes really become friends. And that's why I'm okay with the length of the books in this series, because I think Lauren Blakely takes her time building those relationships, and that isn't wasted page time. Like, it's never wasted page time to build relationship that is beyond the sexual. To me, anyway, that's how I feel. Okay, next up we have Friday Night Lights scent, which I'm sure you can guess is football romance. And the scent of this is fresh grass, leather, and lemon, okay? So, you know, I would be remiss if one of the fall scents wasn't this. And again, I did find this as a real candle. And so we have football and college romance going on here. So I picked Coach by Devney Perry, and this one actually doesn't involve any students. It actually involves Ford Ellis and I can't remember the heroine's name here. Let me find it. Is it Millie? Or is that his little girl? Yeah, it's Millie and Ford. And they actually knew one another. And he is now the coach for Montana State. And she is one of the athletic coordinators, I believe is what her job is. And so now they're forced to be around each other all the time. And he also has, the mother of his child is always around trying to mix things up. So that's a toxic situation there. But they had really cared about each other many years ago, and now they're getting a second chance. I really love their relationship with the heroine and the hero's little girl, and the coaching staff is all really interesting. You'll definitely see more of them in some of the other books. And yeah, this was just a great series. The Treasure State Wildcats was a really great series. And yeah, I really enjoy this one. So that's one football romance. This whole series works for that. Then we also have the Quarterback, which I enjoy so much. So this one is falling for my friend's straight dad might be the worst mistake of Colton's life. So this one is so interesting. So Colton's best friend is gay, but Colton isn't, or so he thinks anyway. And then Colton actually gets injured pretty badly. And it just happens to be when Colton's friends and everyone are gone. So he's injured. He's feeling really down on his luck. And Nick, who is Colton's dad, is also straight. But he's been very supportive of his son. He's been there at all the games. He's this really supportive guy. And so during Colton's recovery, Nick is there to look out for him. And now the feelings they're both kind of have swirling around each other lead to them doing some exploring together. But it's really high stakes for them to be doing this. And it could get very messy for everyone. But I really love these characters. And yeah, I really like this one. There is also connected to this book, The Jock, which that one is definitely a bit more intense and involves a lot more like homophobia and like wildness in there. But this one I didn't find to be as intense. I found it to be very sweet and loving. I mean, the relationship in The Jock is very sweet and loving, but it's just the world is a lot more homophobic in that one. And then I have The Rivalry by Nikki Sloan, and this one is about the cheerleader from one team and the starring quarterback from the other team, and they actually meet at a wedding. They don't fully have a one-night stand or anything, but they do kind of mess around with one another, and then they find out who the other person is. And the hero doesn't have a problem with that because he's like, whatever, our teams are rivals. I'm still into you. College won't last forever. But to her, it's a big deal because she is from the opposing team. And just because she's on like cheer and dance doesn't mean that she's not competitive and that it wouldn't get her in a lot of hot water with the people she associates with if she was into a rival football player. So, yeah, but he's really good with his hands and even better with his mouth. And so he's making her forget her own name. And he might be everything that she wants all rolled into a glorious package. But the loathsome team that he has been against, or that he plays for, what is she going to do about it? So I love this one. I love this one too, as I've said a lot of times as well. I really love how like sex is discussed in here between the two of them, and how the hero really kind of helps her get through some hangups that she has for damage done by guys before him. Okay, moving on. Next up, we have pumpkin spice. And of course, the scents of this are roasted pumpkin puree, cinnamon stick, and ground nutmeg. And for pumpkin spice, I went with Whimsical Fantasy Worlds is what I went with this one. And so by whimsical, I don't really know what whimsical means. I just like how it sounded, kind of, you know. And I went with 3 different kind of out of this world type of scenarios here. So I picked a fairy tale retelling that is Entreat Me by Grace Draven. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but we have Louvain, who is actually a widow, and it is actually her younger sister who gets called to go stay at this magic castle in the woods. And Louvain is like, excuse me, my sister will not be going to stay with some mysterious people in the woods without moi. And so she goes ahead and tags along. And while her sister is being wooed by the master's son, she starts to fall for Ballard, who is the laird of this castle, who's actually been cursed to basically turn into this like forest beast, okay? And she can't help but be falling for him, but there is a curse on this place, one that they believe that Louvain's younger sister can heal, but also maybe there's a lot more to it than they both think. And so when Louvain and Ballard enter into this kind of sexual relationship together, they agree it's only for the winter while her sister is staying there, but by the end of things, is everyone going to be more entwined than is easily extracted, so we say. Then a bit more of a fun one here is A Rebel Without Claws by Juliet Cross, and this is book 1 in the Southern Charm series. And this one is about Ronan, Reed, and Celine Cruz. And Celine is one of the daughters of Evie and Mateo from Wolf Gone Wild. And she is actually she's an aura witch. And so she wants to heal broken things. And when she meets Ronan, who is a cage fighter, he's also someone who his wolf has been suppressed in a lot of ways. And there are a lot of obstacles between them, including her having 2 very protective werewolf brothers and a dad. But when you meet your fated mate, those things tend to fall in line for sure. But as always, this one is both whimsical, loving, and sexy, and I highly recommend that you give this one a go. Then I also wanted to bring up The Longing of Lone Wolves by Lana P. And this one is the first book in her Fae Guardian series, which I need to still read the newest release in this one. I received an arc of it, but like we only got it a few days before it came out. And I also really love her audiobooks for this series. They're my favorite thing. So getting an arc of it is just not like enough for me. Like I need the audiobook as well. But this one is actually kind of a sci-fi and fantasy meet because it involves like there was an apocalypse and so humans destroyed the world and the Fae rebuilt it. And so like there's Rush, who's this Fae guardian who he was a protector and he's been cursed that no one can see him. Except there's Clark, who's this human who wakes up in this time and she can actually see him. And so he plans to hand her over to the Order and hopefully get his curse broken so he can go back to working with his fellow Fae Guardians and be seen again. But she's the only one who can see him. So is he really going to turn over the only person who's been able to see him? And there's probably a good damn reason why she's able to see him and no one else is. So yeah, it's very, very interesting how that plays out. And this one was sold as like The Witcher meets Beauty and the Beast. And man, this book, there's a reason why this one just people went crazy for it. I mean, this is such a great series. It's such a great series. There's also like so much beautiful art throughout the series. Like, oh, I forgot about how beautiful these are. They're just fantastic. Okay, next up we have Candy Corn, which is golden honey, sweet praline, and sticky caramel is the scent. And this is for Halloween novellas and quickies is what I called it, because they aren't all perfectly novella length, but I wanted to do a few, and they aren't all directly Halloween either, but I just felt like being a little frisky with it. So I have Ensnared by the Werewolf, which is absolutely a little quickie right here. This one's under 100 pages from Lillian Lark. And this one is about, I'll just read the back to you. So we have a heartbroken witch, a cursed werewolf, and a fated encounter under the full moon. Belinda loves breaking curses, and when a man shows up at her shop asking for help, she's delighted to assist. Who wouldn't help their fated mate after all? Things go from bad to worse, and now she's left on the rebound. Perhaps riding the local lake monster through his heat will be enough to patch up her wounded soul and get her life out of the rut it's fallen into. So this is what's funny, because I just recently talked about Found by the Lake monster as well. And Belinda was the one who was planning to be mated with the lake monster, but instead she gets lost on the way to the date, and there's someone else who ends up taking that date, and she ends up running into a werewolf instead. So I think this will fully scratch the itch for a little Halloween novella if you want, with werewolf and goodness. Then I recently have talked a lot about The Ecstasy of Sin by Kate Alster. I've talked about it in multiple videos lately. I absolutely love that one. But to cover kind of a Halloween style quickie here, I actually wanted to share her first book, which I also love so much, and that is The Devil and I. And this was her first story. And this one is actually about Lucas and Raina. And so let me read the back of this one to you, because it's been a long time since I've read this one, but this one's only 215 pages, so just over novella length. And this one says, Raina, I stood at death's door and knocked, thinking that being taken by the Grim Reaper was the only way to escape the cruel monster that was coming back for me, intent on finishing what he started a year ago. What opened the door wasn't death, but it was close enough. What is a broken girl to do when the devil himself opens the door she's been knocking on? Unfortunately, the choice isn't mine anymore. When you call out into the void, you can't control what answers back. Lucas, death was coming for her, but I intercepted. She was trying to escape a monster from her past, only to find the devil of her future. She's mine now, and I won't ever let her go. And the monster she's been running from, he's about to find something more deadly in his way. Monster meet the devil. Now, if I recall as well as I can, man, this was 2021. I can't believe it was so long ago already. So this one involves Lucas, who is a serial killer of killers. So we say he actually is a police officer who, when there's someone who escapes justice or doesn't get the justice he thinks they should, he intercepts, shall we say. And when he's on one of his leaves from work is when he will do these dirty deeds. And when he is scouting a location, he runs across this girl who has tried to end her life in the woods. and he intercepts her and stops her from dying and brings her to his home, and instead basically heals her, makes her his, and then finds out what led her to this place and decides to excise that demon from her life. So again, this was Kay's first story. I was honored to read it way back then. And yeah, the quality, it's not perfect by any means, but it is a great story. It has a lot of the hallmarks that we love in an obsessed hero, and honestly was coming out during that time when like serial killer romances were, should we say, all the rage. Whether that is good or bad, you'll have to decide, right? And then the final one for this that is more Halloween centric is The Dare by Harley LaRue, of course. This is actually the prequel story to like The Losers Duet. But this one takes place at a Halloween party, and if you have never read it before, you should give it a try. I don't believe you can buy the ebook on Amazon still. I think you can get it on edenbooks.com, or you can get it on Harley's website, but I think you can buy the paperback on Amazon. It's one of those weird ones where the ebook is banned, but you can still buy the book. That's the same for a lot of Kay Webster's books. You can't buy the ebook, but you can buy the physical copy, because make that make sense. But I highly recommend that one. Okay, just 2 categories left. Next up, we have crisp apple cider. I told you, I like the foods, and this one fits the foods for me too. And for this one, we have cinnamon, juicy pear with grated clove, and fresh nutmeg. And for this one, I picked cozy cabin reads. There's just something about like curling up by the fire with a cup of cider, or, or apple crisp, whichever, crisp apple cider or apple crisp, whatever you want. And so I picked 3 books that take place in a cabin, our cozy cabin reads. Now, I actually did just make a full video of these type of books, and you can check that out up here if you'd want to. But here's just 3. Not all of these were in that video, just so you know. But a couple of them were, or one of them was. So let's do 3 that are cozy cabin reads. First up, I have Homestead by Claire Kent. This is a part of the Kindle series. You can read this one as a standalone if you'd like to, even though I think this one is book 7. It's book 7 or 8. I can't recall off the top of my head. But this one truly does work as a standalone because of the scenario in it. It doesn't really involve people from the rest of the series. The only one who shows up is Mac, and I mean, he shows up in all of the books. But this one involves our heroine, who she's been living with her grandfather, and they've been safe for the whole time since Impact has happened. But when they have to finally venture out, they end up getting attacked, and our heroine is now left alone. And she gets brought in by these group of people who, by the way, if you read Protected, you'll actually get a glimpse at these people. But we meet this family as well as Jimmy, who is not an old man by any means, but he's definitely a bit older than the heroine, who is looking for a mate. He's looking for a woman. And so he makes an offer to the heroine that if she'll be his woman, she'll come stay with him and he'll provide for her. And he needs someone who can help in the house because he works his small farm and he works it nonstop, and he's just absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. So this is a transactional, like basically a marriage of convenience story, even though there isn't really marriage at this point. But I just love this one, and it basically all takes place in Jimmy's cabin. Then we have one that is contemporary and a bit lighter here. We have Hideaway Heart. This one was for sure in my cabin romances. But this one is a bodyguard romance, and we actually have this musician who she wants to get away from paparazzi and hide away for a little bit, but her brother insists that she have protection, and when she won't hire any herself, he sends in his friend Xavier, who actually owes him a favor, and Xander, and he is going to protect her for a short amount of time while she's staying at this cabin by a lake. And the sexual tension galore is there for you. Then, this time of year, I love bringing up this series. This series makes me so happy. It brings me so much joy. and that is the Sons of the Survivalist. And so this is a series that takes place in Alaska, and it is about these 4 men who were all adopted by this grumpy old sergeant who was a recluse and lived in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. And he brought these boys there and he taught them everything he knows. And after they lived with him, every one of them, I believe, ended up in the military in some aspect. But now they've all retired from that and they've moved back there. Their father ends up dying. Their adopted dad ends up dying. And he leaves the 4 with a mission. He'd always lived as a recluse, but in his later years, he had made some friends and he wanted to help revitalize Rescue Alaska. That's the name of the town. And so he gives the 4 men basically a mandate, a mission from him to them that they would help save this town, because he's like, it is important. Community is important. We can all still live our independent lives out here, but we need community both against the elements and against anyone who would threaten our way of life. And so that is how our hero Gabe is started, is he gets asked to be a part-time sheriff for them. And he agrees to do it for only a short amount of time because he really wants to get back to living in the wilderness and fuck his brothers for trying to bring him into it and screw his old man for dragging him into this when he wants nothing to do with it. But he agrees because he has actually been on the police force before, I believe, in another place. But then we have our heroine, who is a Chicago librarian who uncovers a horrible crime. And she ends up waking up to an assassin in her bedroom trying to kill her. And so she goes on the run. She needs a new name, a new ID, and a new home. And so she learns to survive in rescue. And she gets a little job working there. But Gabe is super suspicious of her because who's this outsider who just came in and her documents aren't quite right. But the more he's digging into it, he could possibly make things more dangerous for her. And so Audrey has to decide if she can trust this rugged mountain man, this new sheriff in town, or if she should just hightail it out of there and not risk it because there's people coming for her and the information that she has. And then the final scent is Fall Harvest. And this one is real simple. It's burnt orange, vanilla, and spice. And I picked Small Town Cowboy Romance for this scent. I didn't have to be that specific, but I thought, why not? Because pretty much small town covers a lot. So first up I have Wild for You by Kristen Proby. And this is actually the beginning of like her Montana sagas altogether. This is the first book in the wilds of Montana. And then of course, you know, there's the Blackwells of Montana, which is what's currently coming out. But Wild for You is about, wow, I didn't even write down the names of these ones, but this is about this girl who ends up staying in this small town, and she ends up being the nanny for this single dad, the oldest of the Wilds, and she ends up being a nanny to his 2 kids, and they end up falling for each other. It's a pretty basic, simple premise. She does, I believe, have a stalker. I think that's her, because she had some famous parents and some stalking situations, so there could be a few suspense elements brought in because of that. Are brought into the story. Then we have Wild Eyes, which in my opinion is really, when you look at it now, kind of the only actual cowboy romance in the Rose Hill series. Like if you think about it, we have a business mogul, we have a wrestler, and we have a hotshot firefighter. But it's Weston, right? That's this hero. Yeah, West is the only one that's actually like a cowboy in this series, which is funny. I mean, they all live in this small town, and I would say they're all a little bit like got the country vibe, but he's actually the only one who's like a cowboy. But this one actually involves this chart-topping country singer, Skylar Stone, who is looking for some peace. And so she ends up being invited to come stay in Rose Hill and work on a record there with our hero from book 1. Who has started Rose Hill Records. And so she goes there and she meets Weston Belmont. And she gets asked to like stay in his like guest house there because Rosie Belmont, Rosie is his sister. She's married to will marry the guy from the first one. And so they offer her a place to stay. And it's really to kind of disconnect her from all the fancy life she'd been living and give her a chance to get connected with her roots again and write some songs that she really wants to write. She also, at the beginning of this book, found out that her dad had been messing with her life, and had made some decisions that she didn't agree with that were affecting her career. So she really wants to cut off from that as well. So this was so good. I just love Elsie's books. They've all been winners for me. I know they're not for everybody else, but they are for me. And I just love this one. And then the last one I want to mention is See It Through by Julia Wolf, because if I can squeeze Julia Wolf in somewhere, I will. This is the first book in the Kelly Ranch, and I'm very, very excited for book 3 is coming soon, which I think that one will have an even more cowboy in it, and I'm really looking forward to Caleb's book, because I think he's the most like his dad, which I'm excited about. But this one is about Phoebe or Hannah. Sorry, Phoebe's in book 2. This one is about Hannah and Remy. And Remy actually used to be really close friends with her brother, but then life happened. His father was a real shit dad, and he left town and didn't come back. And now his dad is dead, and he's come back to town months actually after his dad died, and everyone kind of thinks shit about him, including Hannah, who had been working with Remy's dad and was just so shocked and hurt that he didn't seem to give a shit about his dad and that he was dying. Hannah doesn't know the full story or how things went, and she's very vocal about that. And Remy is kind of like, girl, you don't know what's been going on in my life or what's been happening. And slowly, as she starts to listen and open up her heart, she starts to find out what he's been through and start to understand things a little bit better than she did before, let's just say. But I love this. I love Julia's writing. I just love what she does. And this was such a great story. I love everything she writes me, guys. I absolutely do. So much. But anyway. So there you go. That was my idea of choose your own adventure, kind of by the sense. Let me know what your thoughts are for them. If you have a channel or an Instagram, take this idea and run with it and see what you think. But I had a lot of fun putting this together. It really made me think. It's really hard when you do stuff like that because nothing's ever going to match like perfectly. But I definitely tried my best anyway. So, thank you so much for watching, my friends. I'll have links to everything down below. And like I said, hopefully there was timestamps for you. I hope I did that right. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.